Monday on Daily Delivery. Patrick Reusse here with me. I'm Michael Rand. Happy to be back here for another one. Patrick, how was your weekend?
Oh, it was fine. A lot of kid baseball and softball, for that matter. And it was a hot, steamy, dusty day out there watching softball yesterday. So, and then Saturday, I watched some kid baseball. And then I saw some kid baseball on Friday night at Target Field. So oh, so it was a lot of sporting events over the weekend. So anyway, but here we go. Let's wrap up the. It's not the first half. First
No.
of all, I hate that. There's
Yes.
91 games played,
Yes.
71 to go. That's not
Right.
half. That's
No.
not half.
It's the All-Star break.
This is one reason that so many people are bad in math. They don't. They say, it's the first half. It's not the first half. It's the first 55%, 56%. Anyway, what we know for sure, almost 100%, is the starting pitching will not be as good. That's in the second, fifth, 45% of the season as it was in the first. This is as good as your starting pitching possibly could imagine to be.
Yes.
And it's going to waver a little. Joe Ryan is, he's been off now for about 4 games. He hasn't pitched that well. He's given up a lot of home runs. They figured out he hit that fastball and out of the park. Ober is great, been great. Can he continue to be great? Sonny great. I don't know. You got the best you're going to see out of him. The only guy that you can probably say that is probably going to be maybe a touch better is Pablo Lopez.
Yeah.
I would say might be a touch better. But your starting, it is almost impossible that with this starting pitching, that this team is 1 game under 500.
It is.
It's impossible that their hitting attack can be this futile, terrible. 232 team batting average, which would be the lowest in history, lower even than the year of the pitcher in 1968 when nobody hit and they had to lower the mound from 15 inches to 10 inches. This is can be a batting average doesn't count anymore. Well, the hell it doesn't, and it is incredible. I mean, Buxton had 4 days where he hit the ball hard and he got a lot of outs, but he wasn't real lucky. But he's batting 208. He's hitting 208. Correa's 225. Joey Gallo, come on. You got Larnick. Larnick is over in St. Paul, and he's going to strike out a lot. But why are you wasting at bats on Joey Gallo when you got one of your hot number one draft choice prospects who could do the same thing, only better? I mean, it's stupid to have Joey Gallo on this team. He's hit 15 home runs. Yippee. The rest of the time, he strikes out. It's just stupid to have him on this team. And there's other changes that have to be made. They have a real quandary with this kid second baseman because he can hit, but he can't catch. He can't play second base. They got to go send him to St. Paul and see if he can become a left fielder or something because he can't play second base. His life's in danger. And he again, the 6-run rally that they started against Sonny Gray on Saturday started because he kicked a ground ball.
Yeah.
He didn't make a play. I don't even know if he got officially. However many errors he has does not reflect how rotten he is in the field because he's getting away with a little bobble here and there, and they're not calling it an error. But he's the one kid he's the one guy that did any hitting over the weekend, but he can't field. And I don't know, but to me, the number one thought right now is you've had the best starting pitching in baseball, and you're 1 game under 500, and you're 1 game under 500 in the worst division in the history of competitive athletics. Okay, so I think they're going to fade from here when the starting pitching goes. I think this idea that we're confident in everybody in this room, and Rocco's post game quotes were ridiculous.
Yes.
I liked him a lot better when he was peeved off.
Yes, me too.
I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was agitated yesterday, but he decided this was a intellectual decision to go this way, right? Instead of saying,
yes,
we stink. There's something wrong here. This was he made the decision to be positive as they went into the 4-day break. But deep in his heart, he's got to be wondering if he's going to get fired, doesn't he?
I would think so. I mean, we read Suhan's column where he talked to the younger Pohlad now, and it doesn't seem like the younger Pohlad has quite as much patience, and he probably shouldn't. I mean, here's the thing. I was looking at this before we started. This was Sunday night. I was kind of digging into some of the numbers, and you take away 2019, and again, 2019 is part of the record. It was an incredible season, an extraordinary season. Like, we can't remember everything sometimes, even that happened. Sometimes I have a hard time remembering it happened last week, but definitely like stuff that happened like 4 years ago, like before the world changed in a lot of different ways, before COVID, before all this stuff. It's hard to remember that stuff. Patrick, do you remember in 2019 the Twins hit 307 home runs and won 101 games? And I don't think, and as amazing as that was, as much as that was a special season, the further we get from it, the more they kind of cling to that approach that worked in a very specific year with a very specific ball, with some very specific players having career seasons. The further we get from that, the further we know that was the outlier season, right? And that everything that's happened since then and before that is more the reality. And the reality is that every season, if you add up every season, not including 2019, Falvey and Levine are below 500. Rocco Baldelli is below 500. Like, I think they got to start asking hard questions about whether this approach is working, especially to keep taking this, what seems like a pretty similar approach at the plate that's still yielding a decent number of home runs. I think they're like fifth in the American League in home runs right now. But Patrick, they've scored 2 runs or fewer in 36 of 91 games, 40% of their games. Yes. They've scored 2 runs or fewer. Like they can't hit good pitching with this approach. It just doesn't. It's not working to me, unless this is just kind of the opposite year where every good player is in a slump for some reason. It's not the approach. It's not the hitting coach. It's just bad luck. I don't get it, but I'm starting to think that whatever they're doing here, and by they I mean the decision makers, is not working, and that 2019 was just some amazing outlier that's never going to be replicated again.
Well, it happened when Boston was in town here. When that wasn't long ago, right? Youkilis and Dave O'Brien, I think, is his partner on Nesson, and they said those guys. I was told this. They said, "Well, these teams, they aren't playing modern baseball. This their problem here is they're not playing today's game." Which is, you gotta put the ball in play more. You gotta move runners, but you just gotta value the opposite hit single with 2 strikes and stuff like that. Which supposedly they were going to do when they had the come to Carlos meeting in Atlanta on Wednesday after the Atlanta, and then they come out and score 8 runs the first game in
Baltimore. Yeah, it was in Baltimore.
Yeah, and 8 runs. And since then, nothing's changed except you got to play Kansas City.
Right.
That's they're 9-1 against Kansas City, which means they're what against the world? They're
9 games under 500 against everybody else
in the world, and they're not. I'm not a genius on this stuff, but I said at the start of the season I didn't like the lineup, and that they were going to be under 500. Because the pitching's been far better than I imagined. Yes. Starting pitching, and to have them under 500 is just incredible. And I think people we have this almost people they still get bashed a lot, like in the Star Tribune comments, because you got jackasses that just they don't go to any games. The people they don't go to any games,
right?
But there was an optimistic vibe about this team. I thought kind of like we are with all teams now. We feel good about the Timberwolves even when they puke. And we feel, the Wild, of course, everybody 95% ticket renewal, whatever, you fall on your face. And the Vikings, there's always optimism. And people wanted to be optimistic about this team, but even reasonable people, not the idiots who respond in the Star Tribune comment section, but who write the same thing, cheap poll ads and stuff like that.
Right.
Not those idiots, but the people who wanted to feel good about this team are disgusted. And
Yes.
And that's what they got to look at. And I know that financially, there's some panic over there. Here's another thing, Mike.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at when Terry Ryan got fired in 2016, and they modernized the operation. This modernization has cost them $10 million annually in staff, or probably more. Look at the ungodly number of employees they have in their front office doing. They got a science team and they got all this stuff, and you got incredible amount of equipment that they've purchased, the highest end equipment. It's costing them $10 or $12 million annually to have Falvey and Levine. Now they had to modernize to some degree,
sure,
but you look at the release they sent out on the day of their minor league staff in December. They got to have 150 people working on these teams between trainers and their staff and everything else, and they're just sending money flying out the door on all this stuff. And I'm not calling it analytics or anything. You had to modernize, but it is ungodly expensive what these guys have brought in here without results. The results aren't there. They won 101 games. I mean, it was an incredible season. It was a lot of fun. Mitch Garber was hitting the ball over the center field fence and out of nowhere, and all these things were happening. Nelson Cruz was great. He was a great addition. Blah, blah, blah. By the way, I see people saying maybe they should sign Nelson Cruz. They already got a DH who's hitting 208. You want another one?
Yes.
Come on. God, don't be so. People, there's a lot of things, but it's I know this. If they fall on their face in the second half, there's going to be changes. There's now whether they have the guts to fire Falvey, I don't know. But Rocco won't be back next year if this continues. They're going to have to blame somebody.
MGM Wine and Spirits is the choice for savings, service, and a great selection of spirits, premixed cocktails, wines, and of course, ice-cold beers and hard seltzers. With over 30 locations throughout the Twin Cities and beyond, there's an MGM near you. Head to mgmwineandspirits.com to find a convenient location in your area. Get social. Follow MGM on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest news and trends. Make great moments with MGM Wine and Spirits, your locally owned and operated choice for over 50 years. Save time, save money. Shop MGM.
And you might have noticed this: the Yankees just fired their hitting coach.
Yes, I texted you that last night. That's an interesting one, huh?
Yes. So is that a hint? So these guys, But the thing is, as we said, we already had the come to Carlos meeting. We're going to do this ourselves and change our approach, and nothing's changed.
No, they've scored. Aside from that outburst against Baltimore. And you're right, they played the Royals and they did fine there. Aside from that first game against Baltimore, their other 5 games, non-Kansas City games, again, have been against Baltimore since then, and they've not topped 2 runs, and I believe in any of those games.
No. I bet I was on the 2 runs or less statistic about a month ago.
Yeah.
And that was when they were not scoring more than 35% of the time. Now it's 40% of the time.
40%, 36 out of 91 games. Yeah.
Even in the year of the pitcher in 1968, you couldn't win. You couldn't be within 1 game of 500 of 40 of your games. they were 2 runs or less. If 40% of your games were 2 runs or less, and as I said, as we've agreed here, that to waste this level of starting pitching is just, it's almost impossible to have wasted. And when you look at the schedule too, it's not going to be easier the last. You start off with Oakland right out of the bat, but it's not. They've started the year with the easiest schedule you could have, and yeah, the schedule's not going to get easier. That's for sure. And
the rest of July is pretty easy, but you're right. I mean, it's gonna get tougher again by August and September.
And yeah, I mean, it's just I'm sure they're in a full scale panic, and we got this 41-year-old neophyte now. Jim Souhan wrote a column with him after interviewing with him today, Joe Poland, and I don't know what the confidence level is, but he certainly seems to be trying to be more hands-on than his uncle Jim was. So, Jim, and I don't, it's interesting in sports because we want to blame ownership, but then if ownership is meddling a lot, we're saying, what are they meddling for? They don't, what are they doing? Right. You just spend your money. So we have a different evaluations of ownership, but the problem here is not ownership.
No.
The problem is they spent a lot of money on this team, and they are not getting their money's worth. That's for sure.
No, I mean, let's talk about Correa because obviously his availability hasn't been the issue this year. It's been the ability. No. Like you said, he's hitting 225. He's trying to play through whatever injuries. He's got the plantar fasciitis, the other, there's the other stuff we knew about already, the stuff that scared teams away long term. They've got 6 years minimum and $200 million invested in someone who's hitting 225 in the first year of that 6-year contract. I mean, how worried should they be about just that in general? Like someone who's taking up 20% of most of their payroll in most seasons, producing like that, because it feels like a team like the Twins can't necessarily afford to carry a player like that that's not producing, because we kind of saw it during the Mauer years where it, as much as you are free to spend however much you want, they do have kind of their own kind of self-contained cap based on revenue projections, things like that. Like it's hard to compete when your highest paid player isn't producing like that.
Especially in RBI situations, you've been awful. And but they can't get out of it. Nobody's going to take it.
No, of course not.
And he's a great shortstop. But
yes,
if you hate to look at a $200 million guy as he doesn't ever get a hit, but boy, he's a really good shortstop. That's
right.
He's a terrific shortstop. And when you have Jose Miranda playing third and Edward Julian playing second, you hope every ball is hit to him, because these two guys could kill themselves trying to catch the ball. Get Miranda the hell out of here, okay? He's not an athlete. He's slow. He can't get a hit. Get somebody else in here to play third base. They got a bunch of guys. Somebody, try to play. Yeah, I don't think he can play Julian at third. He has enough trouble catching the ball at second. Maybe when Polanco comes back, you try to play him at third and play the other guy at second. But get Miranda out of here. He's not. He had his 5 minutes last year, but they got to do. They can't run this back on Friday. You can't send out the same. And Kepler, move him. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. He had these guys. This is baseball. He has 2 good games, and he's cured. Everything's fine. Right. Look out. Max has got it figured out. Since then, he's what, 0-17 or 0-17 hit yesterday. So, I mean, you got, as I said, you got Larnick. I don't know about Wallner. He's he's ripping it up over there. But you got to make some changes. You can't. This can't be the team that gets on the plane Thursday to go to Oakland. This can't be the team. You got to put a different team on the field. And the other thing that's happened here is since Jorge Lopez has decided to be rotten, and I'm guilty on that one. I love the guy. I thought he had great stuff. I mean, you're going out there with a 2-man bullpen now too, and Duran. Maybe one thing you should tell Rocco if you're the geniuses upstairs: don't pitch him 2 innings.
Right.
Don't pitch Duran 2 innings. Don't be that desperate. You got to have somebody else trying to get him out. But the end of the bullpen is awful now too. So I mean, you got Duran, who you still like, and you got Jax pitching good against. But they have this Moran they're using him in big situations, and he's about 50-50. Yep. Once in a while he gets him out. Once in a while he doesn't. So anyway, pitching as good as it can get. And you're under 500. Incredible.
Yeah, and that was my concern. That's been my concern probably ever since like the first month of the season when we saw how good the pitching was. Like, can the pitching continue to be? What's a bigger candidate that the pitching will regress when the pitching regresses? Will the offense progress enough to kind of make up for that slack? And the thing I didn't see happening was the pitching has been just as good, if not better, since they got off to that really good start, and the offense somehow has gotten worse. Like, I did not imagine that there would be this option where the pitching continues to get better and the offense continues to get worse. Like, you just look at the up and down the lineup, and again, batting average isn't valued the way it used to be. Otherwise, they wouldn't have traded a batting champion. At least it's not valued by them. And he's. Mariah's cooled off a little bit. I think he's only hitting like 380 now. And Lopez and Pablo Lopez has been good. He just got named to the All-Star team. He's been good this year, and I think that he's got some upside, like you said. But you just looked at it then, and you're like, well, when the pitching gets bad, can the hitting compensate for it? And the pitching has continued to be so good. And you're right, they've just absolutely wasted it this year. And again, I think some of it just goes back to approach, and I don't know how much do these guys listen to, how much do professional hitters listen to and get out of a hitting coach? Like, how much of that is they're just going to do their own thing and they've kind of got their approach, and how much do you think they actually do listen to what the team wants them to do at the plate?
Well, first of all, it's not approach with Joey Gallo. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Joey Gallo.
Right.
You get a 29-year-old guy. He is what he is. You're not going to change him. So, it's not all approach. I mean, Kirilloff's a good hitter. Julian's looks like he's a good hitter, and you don't have any complaints about their approach. But Max Kepler, it's now year 4, right? It's year 4. Yeah. He is what he is. It's not approach where all of a sudden they're going to change him. He's going to get a hit to left field. He's going to be a different Max. No, he's not. He's been the same Max for 4 years. He's Rocco. They basically, some of the people in the baseball operation on the field wanted to get rid of him last year, and he's still there, and he's still blocking away for Larnick and Wallner and these guys. You let him go. If you just release him. You only got to pay him for the rest of this year. Nobody will give you anything for him. Maybe he goes somewhere and gets fixed. Good. What do you think you're going to do? You think on August 1st, the day before the trading deadline, that some team's going to call up and give you something valuable for Max Kepler? No, they aren't. So start off by getting rid of about 3 of these guys. You change the approach, I think, by changing the personnel, not because I don't think anybody. I think the philosophy when the year started, and they pretty much told us this. Royce Lewis told us this. Was wait to get a pitch that you can drive, right?
Right.
And that's the whole approach you're talking about, Mike.
Yes.
Is wait till you get a pitch you can drive, and that worked pretty good in 2019. But I got a wild idea. I don't know what I got. I think I think just because of, I don't think it's Rocco's fault what we're seeing here.
No.
I don't know anything about the hitting coach, but I'd fire somebody.
Yeah.
Between now and Thursday.
Fire somebody.
I'd do something. I'd change something. You can't. I mean, oh, good. We just beat Kansas City. We're going to, we got Baltimore coming to town and look out. And then they get their arses handed to them 3 games in a row. I mean, the way Baltimore ran around them, knocked them around, just exploded for 6 runs against Sonny Gray and stuff like that. That you just were seeing, to use the word approach, you just were seeing a much better approach with all these young guys, all these 24-year-old guys in Baltimore, where they were going up there with a plan to hit a double to right field, and it was just boy. As I said, I was occupied with youth baseball by the time I got in the car yesterday, but they got booed roundly, I guess, yesterday, huh?
Yes, they did. Yeah, they did, and it was, and it was deserved, and like you said, it kind of takes a lot for like this, the modern fan to boo. Although I think we've seen it a few times, like when a team. Didn't the Vikings get to hear some of that? I think at the at halftime of that game, they were getting blown out by the Colts, even though they were having a great season, and they come back and win that. And the Wild got it a little bit in the playoffs when they weren't given the effort.
Good.
The Wolves will get it. Yeah, I think it is good. The people here pick their spots, but I think when they sense underachievement is when they're going to get after a team here. If they sense the effort level isn't entirely there, and I don't know if effort has much to do with the 15-2 loss, but if they sense that the home team is not giving its all and is getting beaten worse than they should be, the people have been letting them have it to a certain degree here over the recent years. But yeah, that was interesting, because you're right. I think people did want to like this team. This team had some components that were likable, and it's kind of become like last year. I don't feel like people were really into last year's team. I think they felt like it was more of a mirage last year than it ever has been this year. But it's kind of the same thing. They just started fast and they're kind of fading again.
Here's another thing.
Yes.
This is the month. They've had the month here where the Vikings are not relevant.
Yes.
Right? They've had the month where the Vikings finally disappear, right? Now, if you're reading the Star Tribune, you would think we've all had Aurora fever here for the last 3-4 weeks, but that's over too. Now the Aurora fever has died. We suffered a heartbreaking 1-0 loss to somebody, but so in addition to frittering away great pitching, you frittered away the month where the Vikings are the only month of the year where they're irrelevant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they shut her down because they'll be going out about 10 days, right? They'll be going to training camp and then it's over.
Camp's about 2-3 weeks away, but yeah, not too far. Not too far.
Yeah, it's I mean, if I don't know. I've talked to Joe Polad 3 times in my life for 5 minutes, and I knew he ran a failed radio station there for a while, but the fact that it looks like that's his full-time job, where it certainly wasn't Jim's full-time job, right? I mean, Joe, this is what Joe's doing, trying to take care of the family interest with the ball club. And if he's going to be kind of an impulsive guy, I think that's good.
Yeah.
If you get somebody there that say, okay, this is, this why is our baseball operation spending, not counting the salaries of Falvey and Levine and those guys, how come we're spending $12 million extra a year to put this, and this is what we're getting? What's going on here? What is going on here? I don't know where you go. Maybe you bring back an old school general manager from some 60. I mean, Terry Ryan doesn't want the job, or nobody else, but maybe I don't know what you do, but something's got to change. That's for sure. It's if they were getting what they deserve, they'd be 12 or 13 games out of first place, right? if
Right.
they're getting what they deserve.
Yeah.
The fact that we're no longer in first place. Who cares? You're under 500. You got to win 90 games to win a division in modern baseball. And even if you're in this rotten division, you should have to win at least 86 or something. And, you're all failing. Okay. The on-field staff is failing. The front office, the top of the Falvey and everybody else you're failing, and the players are failing. The veteran players are failing miserably. That's I don't know. If I was Bally, I'd call up and cancel the check. I'd say no, thank you. I don't want them. Unbelievable.
Well, they're now 3 games behind the worst team in the AL East, and they're tied for the 10th best record in the American League right now. 10th best, which means there's only 4 teams that have a worse record than them in the American League. I mean, two of
them are Oakland and Kansas City, who are historically bad.
Who are actively not trying to win. Yes.
Yes. They're historically bad. So it's one of the, when you consider the starting pitching, it's one of the great flops in Twins history right now.
Yeah.
This is one of the all-timers. So
really quick.
And the whole modern, I pine for the days when baseball was really part of our soul around here.
Right.
And we'd be killing this operation, and that we wouldn't have to turn on TV and have them try to sugarcoat it. You know what we need? We need Ozzie Guillen on the post-game show.
Oh, yeah.
Like we got with the Whites. We need a post-game show where Ozzie and Frank Thomas are there, and Ozzie saying, that team's terrible, which is what I've seen the post-game show.
Hire Minkiewicz. Bring in Minkiewicz. He would do that.
Yeah, hey, Minkiewicz gave him a plug for the draft choice. Apparently he had him somewhere, this Walker Jenkins or whatever his name is.
Okay.
Big right-handed hitter who's probably going to strike out a lot, it would be my guess. Huh?
Probably. Hey, really quick before we end the show, did you read our Q&A, which was good? Our Q&A, Chris Hine did a Q&A with Chris Finch, the Wolves coach, and first question, which is a good one, is reflecting on the partnership between Cat and Gobert. Is asking him, what do you want to do more of? What didn't work? So he's got the answer didn't give me a ton of confidence. I know Finch is a smart guy, but the answer was, I think we have to be more definitive with our spacing around Rudy and pick and roll, Cat in the post. 2 anchor points, maybe in general, just a little bit more structured, 2 big spacing, both bigs having a purpose at the same time. Then I think we got away from Cat being in the trail spot. Got to get him back where he's really destructive, playing at the top of the floor early in the offense, which scares me because that's not where I like Cat, because that's where he picks up his offensive fouls. That's just off the top of my head of things that pop out, which I feel pretty confident about being able to firm that up. I don't know.
They have given him an impossible task.
Yes.
They have no coach in the world. But let me say this. You know why I love the Q&A?
Why?
Because my response to Edwards' contract was, have a clause in there that says he promises if the game's in doubt in the last minute and he has the ball and he comes over the timeline, he can't get that look in his eye where we know damn well he's not going to pass anybody or look for anybody. He's going to throw up a 27-footer and miss it.
Yep.
He's going to miss it. And Finchie agrees with me.
Yes.
He says there's a better shot there than the step back.
He's always been.
Finchie and I were on the same length because he's going to shoot. If they happen to, if they're pressuring the point guard a little, they have to give it up and give it to Edwards, right? He brings it over the line. He's got the look in his eye. He's going to shoot that damn thing.
Right.
He's not going to make it. He never makes it. He makes it once out of 8 times. And here's the other thing. No clear outs in the last minute. Okay. Not, the old Jimmy Butler's going to dribble, and then shoot with 3 seconds to go and miss. That's so stupid. Pass the ball, do something. But he and I agreed on Ant shooting the step back when the game's on the line without ever even noticing he has a teammate. So but I mean, Mike, we could have someday, 10 years from now, when Tim Connolly's older and retired someplace, and they're 15 years, he's going to tell, I'll be long gone, but he's going to tell us why he made this trade. He's going to tell us what he was thinking. But for now, we just got to go with the gobbledygook. We'll never know it. We're lesser people. We don't have the mind to digest. Our brains are not developed enough as the human race to figure out why in God's name he would rather pay $38 million for a big oaf in the middle who could block shots than $3 million for a big oaf in the middle who can block shots. Right. By the way, isn't as big an oaf as the oaf you're paying $38 million to.
No.
So someday when your kids are adults and they're wondering the Wolves and they're looking back at Wolves, maybe we will get an explanation. But for now, I'm on my deathbed 12 years from now, hopefully, I'll be asking, why did he make that Rudy Gobert trade? I still haven't got the answer to that question.
No,
why did he do that? So
I've wanted for the last year to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's part of a master plan and that there's another move still coming, but it sure sounds like they're determined to run it back this season, and I just I don't see much upside. I don't see any. So you're going to make a trade out of desperation next year. Exactly.
You got to get rid of these contracts.
What's the upside? You're not going to pay these guys $96 million combined next year. That's what Cat and Rudy make next season, not this season, but 24-25. $96 million for two centers.
There's the cap, and there's the super cap, and there's the super duper cap now, and you're going to be over the super duper cap.
Yes. Just with centers, because Naz is getting 14.
We got two guys trying to buy the club from Glenn Taylor who are out panhandling now already, trying to come up with the money. And and now they're going to say, oh, by the way, your penalty is going to be $100 million.
Yeah. Not a chance.
And we want a new arena.
And we want a new arena too. Not a chance. Something's going to give. It just doesn't sound like it's going to give right now, unless we're not reading this right. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll talk again next week, Patrick.
On those positive notes. We'll talk again.
We'll take you into the All-Star break with that, Patrick. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Make some money this weekend. Bet the A's against the Twins.
Okay. There you go.
They stink, but I got the vibe that they can lose 3 out of 4 going to Oakland.
That'd be curtains. Right there. All right. Thanks, Pat.